didn't make art. They didn't make anything.
Why, they were just warriors?
Just warriors eating meat. All they did was eat buffalo and kill everybody else.
So if you so is it weird though that we feel bad about that? Like, is that a trap?
It's like
no, I agree. Everybody acts like
you'd
Native Americans were like everybody's just like whistling and just
But hold
shaking
on.
hands, but
You
they were
would-
fighting.
Yeah, 100%.
I wanted them to have back whatever they want.
But there's so many different tribes that conquered so many different, and then you'd have to go back to when.
Right, you're like when?
Well, you got it because you killed all these people. Let's go back to the Algonquins. Let's give it to the Apaches. Let's get you'd have to figure it out, man. It was like there was an understanding that if you saw somebody and they had horses or they had these, you're going to go kill them and take that thing from them. And if you knew that there was a camp and the camp was over the top of the ridge and they would be in bed at night, you would come in the middle of the night and
Oh yeah, sneak them.
And they did that to each other. They did that to each other.
Because sometimes there's this vision that you romanticize that culture, right? I do that a lot.
All right. So imagine if history wasn't all that we thought it was. What if the narratives we hold about our ancestors are a lot more complex? This podcast we're reacting to dives deep into the realities of Native American history and even goes as far as comparing ancient ways of life with the craziness of today's conflicts. Buckle up, because there's some seriously wild stuff here.
Oh yeah, if I was ever in office, dude, Native Americans are getting a lot of shit back immediately, dude.
Well, they already have casinos.
Huh?
They already have casinos.
Yeah, but did they want casinos? I wanted them to have back whatever they want.
Now, while they joke about casinos, it's worth thinking about what giving it back actually means. This isn't just handing over some deed, it's an entire cultural and territorial reset, but who would we even give it to? It's not like native tribes were just sitting around peacefully all day. They had their own conflicts, their own territory battles, just like everyone else.
Well,
they're getting it back. They're getting the rivers back. They're getting the lakes back.
They were taking it from each other too, dude. It's like
no, I agree. Everybody acts like Native
Americans
Americans were like everybody's just like whistling and just shaking hands, but they were fighting.
Yeah, 100%. But you would have to figure out like who owned it like at that time.
Yeah,
and give it back to them, and then you would have to let all those other people try to kill them and get it back. Because if you want to go back to the old ways, that's the old ways. You want to go back to when the Comanche ran Texas. Like, okay, good luck. But you know what the Comanche's favorite thing was doing? Raiding other tribes. They loved that.
They were gangbangers.
Yeah, they were gangbangers.
The Comanche loved raiding. Now that's real history for you. These guys were fierce, and calling them gangbangers isn't far off. Those raids were serious business, and they fought with a whole different mentality. The idea of surrender just didn't exist in the same way. They were in it until the very end, no option for a safe escape. Imagine living in that kind of world where you knew you'd have to fight to the death or face torture. That was the reality, and it gives you a perspective on what true grit looks like.
They would show up in other tribes and slaughter people. And they wouldn't just slaughter people. They would torture them. They would cut their arms and legs off, throw them on a pile of fire. Nobody ever surrendered, ever, because they knew that there was no leniency. You're going to be tortured and killed.
Oh, so you had to fight to the death.
100%. Fight to the
Imagine
death.
not being able to surrender because you have no choice but to fight to the death. That's
the
wild.
concept of surrender was completely alien to Native Americans.
Yeah.
They fought to the fucking death, and they fought each other to the death. And there was battles between all of them, and they conquered, and they made alliances, and especially Little Bighorn, they all got together and fucked up Custer. But there's so many different tribes that conquered so many different, and then you'd have to go back to when.
Right, you're like when?
Well, you got it because you killed all these people. Let's go back to the Algonquins. Let's give it to the fucking Apaches. Let's get you'd have to figure it out, man. Like this was a
you're gonna have to tickle a dream catcher to get the truth.
This was really like, in some ways, other than the violence, it was like a utopian existence.
The idea of a peaceful utopian existence is a myth. These warriors lived in a brutal world where every day was a struggle, a survival of the fittest. They were following buffalo herds, not making art or even trying to settle down. They were fighters born and bred.
It was, these people followed the buffalo around, ate every part of it, used their skins to make their houses, traveled on horseback, following them around. They didn't even make art, dude. The Comanche didn't make art. They didn't make anything.
Why, they were just warriors?
Just warriors eating meat. All they did was eat buffalo and kill everybody else.
So if you so is it weird though that we feel bad about that? Like, is that a trap? Like, that's what I'm wondering. Does that question make sense to you?
Well, that was the way they lived. I mean, is that better than drone bombs in Yemen? When we sit here comfortably in this fucking Austin warehouse, is it better? Is that better? No. The whole thing is it's that Gaza's going on. It's that they're using these poor Ukrainians like fucking meat for the Russian war machine. The whole thing's crazy. It's all bad. But the crazy that was going on back then was a one-on-one crazy. It's a different kind of crazy. It was like there was an understanding that if you saw somebody and they had horses or they had these, you're going to go kill them and take that thing from them. And if you knew that there was a camp and the camp was over the top of the ridge and they would be in bed at night, you would come in the middle of the night and slaughter everybody.
Oh, yeah, sneak them.
And they did that to each other. They did that to each other. So it was a horrific way of existing.
Because sometimes there's this vision that you romanticize that culture, right? I do that a lot. I romanticize things that I don't know about, right? Because there just seems like something like, oh, that's romantic or something, you know?
Bro, this was a culture of warriors.
It was fucking hide and go seek for real.
It was a culture of warriors. Like this whole country was filled with nomadic warriors. Yeah.
Wow.
And most of them got killed by smallpox. That's what's the crazy.
Oh.
Then there's the other side of it, disease. Imagine being one of these warriors, someone who fought every day only to get taken down by a sneeze. It's almost poetic in a dark, tragic way. Some random European steps off a boat, sneezes, and entire tribes fall. You're a trained fighter, but how do you combat germs you can't even see?
Most of them got killed by the flu and all sorts of diseases that came over with the Europeans.
How gay must that have felt, dude? You're a fucking warrior, right? Suddenly you get a fucking couple of
sneezes on you at the depot.
Like,
you go to the trading depot to drop off some fucking skins. Some dude sneezes on you, and that's a wrap.
Yeah, you're like training all day, dude. Some guy just fucking doesn't wash his feet for half an afternoon,
or just came here off a boat. Yeah. Stinky bitch was breathing air and drinking water. You know, like, dude, do you imagine the hygiene on those boats?
Oh, Columbus's ship. It was like the first Burning Man, dude. That place was a dump, dude. I heard the Penta didn't even have any chicks on it, dude.
It's like, there's an example. Columbus is an example.
Could you have done it?
I mean, probably if you lived back then, that would have been the thing to do because you would have been bored.
But it's early morning.
You would have wanted
to
try. You would want to try to see what it looks like to go across the ocean. If you're a young man and you just needed something in your life and you knew the dudes did it and you just eat beef jerky for 3 months and you make it across the ocean and when you get to the other side, there's gold everywhere. They didn't even know where they were.
Yeah.
But if you read the accounts, there was a priest that traveled with them, some sort of religious man that traveled with them. That kept like a detailed diary of the horrific things that Columbus's men did. They bashed babies on the rocks. They They told certain men that they had to give them their weight in gold, and if they did, they would chop dudes' arms off in front of everybody. They enslaved these people and used them for their gold because these people had no use for gold. They didn't know how valuable gold was.
You mean when they got to the Americas?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
People
they just slaughtered people. They just slaughtered people, dude. There's horrific depictions of what Columbus's people did.
I romanticize nature so much, and it's really vulgar, isn't it?
Well, it's just humans have always done this to each other.
It's easy to imagine the past as this beautiful, unspoiled time, but the truth is way more intense. This wasn't a world of peace and harmony. It was war after war, tribe against tribe. Humans have been invading, conquering, and fighting forever. Whether it's ancient tribes or modern countries, we haven't exactly evolved out of our tribal mindset, have we?
And for all of human history, the strong groups of men with weapons invade people that aren't prepared, and they take all their stuff and they conquer them. I mean, it's always happened. It's the most common thing. If you go back and look at history, there's a bunch of common things. There's an increase in the complexity of architecture and the design of the cities. There's machines. There's all these different things improve. But along the way, the consistent thing is war. It's constantly happening from the beginning of time. As early as we know, tribes were battling other tribes. And back then, when there wasn't that many people and wasn't that many resources and you were competing to see whose genes spread, it's just natural. Wow. You develop tools and weapons, and then that's ingrained in our fucking DNA. So here we are in 2024 with iPhone 16s and Starlink, and we're still locked into this tribal war mindset because that's how humans evolved.
Right.
And that's the scariest thing about being alive today is that we're so advanced, we're so much more civilized than at any other point in human history, and yet same amount of people, if not more, are dying senselessly all the time.
Right, like we're civilized on the outside, but there's a part of us that will always be uncivilized.
Yeah, well, the part of it is war, right? And other parts of the world are not as calm as us. There's parts of the world that are very dangerous.
Yeah.
There's places of the world where you can't go without getting robbed or shot.
Yeah,
There's
Memphis, first of all. I'll say that.
Is Memphis that bad?
Memphis is bad, dude.
That's where Elvis came from.
Huh?
Isn't that where Elvis came from?
And he left,
Has it
too.
changed? Where's Graceland?
Actually, Graceland, you know what's crazy about Graceland, dude? It's
What?
in Memphis. And it's cool. You go out, they let you in the backyard after the smoke, and Elvis's grave is right there.
You could smoke right in front of Elvis's
You can
grave?
smoke 17 centimeters from Elvis's grave, or 80 centimeters.
And then, just as you're taking in all this intensity, they bring it back to Elvis in Memphis. That quick switch from brutal history to pop culture, it's kind of hilarious. We're jumping from Columbus's horrible history to people smoking by Elvis's grave like it's no big deal. It's that blend of heavy and light that reminds us that while history can be dark, sometimes you just gotta sit back, relax, and take a breath. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Make sure to leave a like if you did. And
That Elvis movie was so good.
Which one? The one
With
about his
Tom Hanks,
girlfriend?
where Tom Hanks plays the colonel. You didn't see that one?
Oh, yeah.
With that dude, what is his name? Austin?
Colonel
What's the
Winters or
fella's
whatever?
name that played Elvis? Austin Butler is really good.
Yeah,
man.
that was-
He nailed it. He was really good. You really believed that he was Elvis. What a crazy story.
Yeah.
Elvis was the first guy to get way too famous. The first guy that was just way too famous.
Yeah.
Like there was no one that famous before Elvis.
No, there wasn't, dude. Well, yeah, there was. Jesus, probably. Who else?
Maybe Jesus.
Constantine.
I think Jesus got his reps. He got his
Afterwards.
really appreciation after he was gone.
Yeah.
Sort of like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, kind of. That's a good point, huh?
I mean, people love Kurt Cobain while he was alive, but I think they really appreciated him after he was dead.